In a brand new era, a new X-Force team is born, ready to prevent the end of the world by any means necessary.
What do they call you? Wheels?
Hi everyone, it's One Way to X here, and the first month of From the Ashes ends this week with X-Force Issue 1. So join me as I break it all down for you. Written by Jeffrey Thorne with art by Marcus Toe, the book opens with the X-Men fighting the Xenomorph ripoffs, the Brood. Now this isn't any current X-Men team, but a variation on one of the 80s teams, which you can tell by Storm's punk look. As they fight, we get narration from Sage, who will be the second in command for this new X-Force team, and she starts with, "A picosecond after she dies, I'm thinking." Who dies? Well, I initially thought this was a reference to Jean Grey's death during the Dark Phoenix saga, as Sage had a role in that, but I actually think this is from the future. We already know that in issue 5 of this book, one of the team members will be dying, and perhaps this is from that moment and she's looking back on the creation of the team. Hey everyone, it is future editor Wheels here. Now, this video was recorded back in August 2024. It is now December 2024, and since I recorded this video, issue 5 of X-Force has come out, and we do know who died. Now, I'm not going to say right now in this video, but if you do know, then that's great. If you don't know though, you can still comment in the video and let me know who you thought was going to die, and then find out afterwards. But I hope you enjoy the rest of the video. Now, a quick explanation of Sage for those that have never heard of her before. She first appeared during the Dark Phoenix saga as Tessa, Sebastian Shaw's assistant in the Hellfire Club. While she had a relatively minor role, she would often be the one making deals with the X-Men so that the two teams could work together. Now, in X-Men Volume 2, issue 109, Chris Claremont returned to X-Men Comics. Tessa was suddenly working with the X-Men, and by the Extreme X-Men book, a year later, she would join Storm's team, going by Sage. It was eventually revealed that Sage, as a teenager, was the one to rescue Charles Xavier after he was paralyzed by Lucifer. Yes, that is how he lost the use of his legs in the comics. Xavier, in turn, trained her and set her up to be a spy working for the X-Men undercover in the Hellfire Club. In the year 2000, Sage was kidnapped and tortured by an evil telepath, Elias Bogan. Sebastian Shaw did not rescue her, but Storm did, and that started her tenure as an X-Man. As for her powers, Sage has a computer brain, which means that she is highly intelligent, has quick reflex times, and has a photographic memory, among a million other things. She is also telepathic and can jumpstart DNA sometimes. Back to the story, Sage recalls the first time she ever met Forge whilst working at the Hellfire Club. She makes predictive models of everyone she meets, and yet she couldn't make one of him. We then see Forge amongst this X-Men vs. Brood battle watching. This is a simulation after all, one that he's been watching for 36 hours. His robotic assistant informs him that all the components are complete, and they head towards the McCoy Project Phase 1. This is a direct reference to Hank McCoy, Beast, who inspired this project. A hologram of a pretty blue furry beast starts talking about wanting to be normal and using his mind to affect the changes he wants, effectively taming the beast. Forge notes how Hank tried to suppress his mutation and evolved it by accident, but Forge won't do that by accident. I would just like to point out that this isn't Beast's blue origin in the comics, but it is a better story, so who cares? For those that don't know, Forge's mutant ability is that he's able to create anything that he thinks of. Literally, he just knows how to build or fix anything. Famously, he created the mutant depowering gun, which was used on Storm and caused her to lose her powers for around 3 years. Now, in this moment, he has created a machine to try and induce a power-up in his mutation, and it works. Forge experiences a vision and learns of various places around the globe: Soratishi, the Forest of Torment, the Well of All Things, and Heart Home, Florida. These are all fracture points that need to be fixed, and now he knows how to fix them. This experiment also implies that Forge has made himself into an Omega level mutant, which is classified as someone who has no recorded limits to their powers. Storm, Jean Grey, Iceman, and Magneto are just a few examples of those Omega level mutants. This is a definite shift, as when Omega level mutants were redefined at the start of House of X, Forge was explicitly stated to not be an Omega. So I guess he took that personally. Forge then travels to a mental health clinic in Switzerland under the alias of Dr. Silvercloud to meet with a patient called Madame Lechec. Apparently, she checked herself in but was in a terrible state and suffering from intense trauma. And well, Madame Lechec is Sage. Madame Lechec means Mrs. Failure, by the way. Now, Sage is not in a good place as she's currently malfunctioning. She's rambling in different languages and numerical patterns and quoting literature without reason. This is the effect of the end of Krakoa on her. And as a key member of its security team, X-Force, I think she feels very responsible. Forge is able to bring Sage back to consciousness by showing her the analog, this sphere that he has created which shows the fraction points and when they are about to break. 10 days later, Forge and Sage are in Soichi in Japan and are kitted out in brand new X-Force uniforms and flying a brand new Blackbird. They're on this mission unsanctioned by any authority or government and so drop in stealthily to the outskirts of the city when they realise that the entire population has vanished. And that's when two more members of the new X-Force team show up, Captain Britain and her girlfriend, Askani. Captain Britain is Betsy Braddock, the original British Shylock, who, now being back in her original body, has become a multiversal protector of Otherworld. Askani is Rachel Summers, the daughter of Cyclops and Jean Grey from the Days of Future Past timeline, Earth 811. Whilst the movie adaptation has Kitty Pryde send Wolverine back in time, it's Rachel that sends Kitty Pryde back in the comic. And when the timeline didn't change, Rachel used the Phoenix Force to travel to the main Marvel Universe in Uncanny X-Men 184, and she's been here ever since. Betsy and Rachel are both telepathic and telekinetic, and Rachel can even access the Phoenix Force at times, as in her universe, the Dark Phoenix saga never happened and Jean stayed as the Phoenix. Fun fact, Askani also has no multiversal variants or counterparts. She is entirely unique. We then get a flashback to Betsy and Rachel being recruited to X-Force. Betsy is a bit more apprehensive, which makes sense as she's already been on 3 different iterations already, but Rachel is all for it. And they agree to the secrecy, as long as there's no Deadpool. As the team make their way into the city, they see that everything is abandoned, trashed, and covered in blue goo. Sage gets to analysing everything, trying to understand what happened, when she's led to a van which explodes with electricity. A fight almost breaks out, but it's stopped when they realise that it's Surge. Now, Surge is a former Academy X era student of the Xavier School, classmates to Laura, the Cuckoos and Prodigy, all of which you can see currently in NYX. She has the ability to generate and absorb electricity along with having super speed. This is the first time Noriko has seen any fellow X-Men since the end of Krakoa, but she's relieved to see some friendly faces. As we learn, she was here visiting family when the sludge began attacking people, and she did all she could to protect these civilians. And that's when it begins to attack again, consuming one of those civilians, Mr. Watabe. X-Force is suddenly surrounded, and Sage predicts that they'll all be overwhelmed in 70 seconds, including Askani. With that, Forge calls in Tank and Deadpool, who get straight into the action. Wade is his usual 4-4 breaking self, referencing Deadpool and Wolverine, and asking whether Betsy and Rachel have ever considered polyamory, which is definitely a joke about the relationship between Wolverine, Cyclops and Jean Grey during the Krakoa era and their adjoining bedrooms on the moon. Then in another flashback we see that Forge and Sage actually met with Deadpool days ago, offering to hire him for around $10 million, which he gladly accepts. Back in the present, Deadpool is basically naked as the goo monster has torn off all of his clothes. The team desperately fight back, and Askani links her telekinesis with Captain Britain's to boost her shields, and they manage to push the goo back. In this reprieve, Sage has completed her analysis and realised that all of these monsters are just migrating east, and X-Force is just in the way. Migrating to what? Well, an enormous blue goo monster that is currently stomping around the city. Betsy gets overwhelmed by the monster's thoughts and collapses, with Rachel hitting the monster with a massive telekinetic blast, which does nothing at all. We learn that the monster is a result of the Fujikawa Research Group, a company tied to Essex Corp and Mr. Sinister, splicing mutant genes with alien biomes to create organic weapons. And this one escaped. Essentially, this blue goo will continue to eat animal matter to add mass until there is nothing left. With that, the team evacuates the area besides Forge, Tank and Deadpool, and Forge orders Tank to execute Maneuver L. Now, Maneuver L involves Tank throwing Deadpool at the monster, who eats him, to the surprise of Deadpool, who had no idea what was going on. The analog confirms that the fracture has been resolved and Forge and Tank leave the scene. Now, the identity of Tank is still unknown, but the impression they are giving me in this issue is that Tank is just a robot Forge created. But apparently there is a mystery surrounding him, so who do you think Tank is? Deadpool is begging for a rescue, but he's the poison pill. The monster will continue consuming Wade's cancer over and over as it regenerates, ultimately starving itself. And it should only take 3 days. X-Force reboard the Blackbird and invite Surge to join the team as they fly off to their next mission in Wakanda. Now, the bonus digital page that every #1 issue has picks up with the X-Force team en route. Sage is questioning Forge's choices, sacrificing Deadpool and drafting Surge, but Forge clarifies that the analog wanted Surge. He solves problems by building machines, and to save the world from ending, X-Force is his newest machine. Meanwhile, a mysterious figure is somehow watching X-Force on a monitor and refers to Forge as querido. Now, querido is used in both Spanish and Portuguese to mean dear or darling. So, who could this be? My immediate thought was Sunspot, who is Brazilian and speaks Portuguese. Roberto is an ultra-rich X-Man who is actually a member of X-Force in the 90s, and he hasn't been seen anywhere yet in this new era. But why would he be so mysterious and menacing? My other guess is a more obscure suggestion, the Spaniard Vargas, a perfect human like Captain America who fought the Extreme X-Men team on several occasions, even killing Betsy early on in the run. Now, I know this is probably a stretch, and I think it was said that the Marauders killed him a long time ago, but this is comics and characters come back to life all the time, and I think it would be particularly interesting considering his history with both Sage and Captain Britain. But who do you think this mysterious person is? Make sure to put your thoughts down below in the comments so we can have a discussion over it. Hey everyone, it's future editor Wills here again, just to let you know that the identity of this mysterious character has now been revealed. Again, this video was filmed back in August 2024 and it's now December 2024. I know it's been a busy few months for me, I do apologise. So if you do know who this mysterious character is, that's great and you can mention it down below in the comments. And if you don't, that's also great because then that means you get to keep the surprise of knowing whether I was close or not with my guesses. But again, I hope you enjoy the rest of this video. Okay, I'll be honest here and say that X-Force isn't usually my favourite X-Men book, but I think Thorne has found a really interesting new angle to the whole thing with a different lineup and a different purpose. He also seems to have a nice handle on all the characters and their different dynamics, and I particularly enjoyed that Sage was narrating the issue. Marcus Toe also does great work here, as usual. I suppose my main critiques were that the book felt a bit light and a bit quick, like it was over too soon. So with that, X-Force 1 is getting a ranking of 6.5. But how did you find X-Force issue 1? What do you think about the new team, the new purpose, the story and the art? Let me know down below in the comments and I'll see you all in the next video.